Okay, so what we're working on in section 6.2 is radicals and rational exponents. So a radical is anything with a root. We've dealt with square roots, right? If there's not a number there, you need to know that there's a 2 there. It's just like if I have an x, there's a 1 in front of it and a 1 up here. But whenever you're taking the root of something, if you don't see anything, then you need to know that it's the square root. That's just going to be something that's going to be important. Okay, so when I'm going from radical to a rational exponent, what happens is I'm going to divide by the root. So you divide by whatever the root is, and whatever the exponent is, that goes on top. Okay, so the root is the denominator of the exponent. So let's try and write some of these. Let's go on this side over here. This is a little easier. So I have a root here of 2. So this is y to the 1/2. This one, my root is 3. So it's y squared divided by 3. So y to the 2/3. This root here is to the 4th. So it's y to the 3/4. So what happens is you just divide your exponent by whatever the root is. All right, here, let's go ahead and write it the other way. So I have an x to the 1, and the denominator is the root. So it's the square root of x. Right here, it's x to the 1, and then my root is 3. So it's the cube root of x. And then this last one, it's x to the 1, and the root is 5, because that's what you were dividing by. Okay? Now, sometimes you're going to have things that aren't just variables. You're going to have numbers. And so we need to know how to write it in radical notation, and then we're going to have to learn how to simplify it. You've probably seen some simplifying before, but it's a process that we'll do just to make sure you understand. Okay, so radical, so this is 9 to the 1, and it's the square root. Well, what happens is we need to figure out what 9 is. 9 is 3 times 3. In order to take something out, you have to have as many in the group as what the root is. So since I have to have 2 of them, I have 2 3's. And so that means the square root of 9 is 3. I have one group of 2, so I write 1 3. All right, so let's look at 16. So 16, it's 16 to the 1, and it's the 4th root. So I need to break 16 down. And you need to break them down into prime factors. So 16 is 4 times 4, and each of these 4's is 2 times 2. All right, for this problem, I'm taking the 4th root, so that means I have to have 4 of them. And I have 4 2's right here. So since I have one group of 4 2's, I'm able to take out 1 2. So the answer is 2. Okay. All right, so now let's figure out this next one. So it's going to be 9 to the 5th, and then it's the square root. Okay, because my denominator's 2. All right, so 9 to the 5th is just 5 of them. So let's figure out what 9 is. We know 9 is 3 times 3. So it's 3 squared to the 5th. So that's the same as 3 to the 10th. Okay, so what that means is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 3's. Well, let's look and see how many you have to have. You have to have 2 of them to take them out. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them I'm able to take out. So I'm able to take out 5 of them. So that's 3 to the 5th. And that's 3 times 3, which is 9, times 3 again, which is 27, times 3 again, which is 81, times 3 one more time is 243. Okay, So 64, I'm going to have to do this one over here. So because it's in parentheses, that means negative 64 is in parentheses here. And that's squared. And then the root is 3. So let's break down what 64 is up here. 64 is 8 times 8, which is 2 times 4, and 2 times 2. And 8 is 2 times 4, and 2 times 2. So the numbers I look for are these 2's. Whoa, it's a weird circle. But those are the prime numbers I have. There we go, I circled them all. Now, so 64 is the same as 2 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I'm also have to square that because it says squared right here, right? So this becomes 2 to the 12th. Let's get a different color. We're running out of space. So this is 2 to the 12th. Now, I have to have groups of 3. Well, I can expand them all out, or I can say, okay, I have 12. How many groups of 3 is that? Well, that's 4 groups of 3. So this is going to be 2 to the 4th, which is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 again, which is 8, times 2 one more time, which is 16. It gets a little complicated, but with some time you'll understand how to do this. Okay, so now we're going to go backwards. We got 3 to go backwards, and we'll use all this space below. So because it's underneath the radical, it's going to be negative 8. There's an exponent of 1 divided by 3. Okay, so now to simplify it, I need to break down negative 8. Well, the only way I could have a negative under here is if it's negative times negative times negative. So I know I'm going to have a negative. So I'm just going to break down 8 instead of breaking down negative 8. So it's 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2. For this one, in order to take them out, I have to have 3 of them. And look, I have 3 2's. So that means I could take out 1 2, and it's negative 2 because this was negative, so I have to take out the negative. All right, this next one is 448 to the power of 1 divided by 6. Let's figure out what 448 is. Now, if you don't know what something goes into, just divide by 2 if it's even. So that's 2 and 224. That's 2 and 112. That's 2 and 56. That's 2 and 28. Some more space. That's 2 and 14. And 2 and 7. Okay, so for this one, you have to have 6. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, I got 6 2's. So that means I can take a 2 out. But now look what happens here. I'm left with this guy. What do I do with that? Well, if you have something left over, they stay under the root. And because it was a 6th root, it stays a 6th root. Okay, 96 to the 4th root is going to be 96 to the power of 1 divided by 4. And then now we need to figure out what 96 is. So 96 breaks down to 2 and 48, 2 and 24, 2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. Okay, so this time you're supposed to have 4 of them. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a group of 4 2's. So that means I can take 1 2 out. But if you notice, I have these left over. Remember, leftovers stay underneath. And so they stay underneath, and I can go ahead and multiply them. 2 times 3 is 6, and then I bring the 4th root over. So the biggest thing you have to do with this is you're going to have to, I think the hardest thing you'll have is the simplifying, but just do a factor tree. And if you're not sure, divide by 2 until there's nothing left. And then it's either a 3, 5, or 7. Okay? But make sure you do this factor tree portion because it will make things easier.